I'm Eric. I'm 35, and I just evicted my own brother's family because his wife decided that my daughter's intelligence was an insult to her son. Before I tell you how a single math test destroyed our family and led to a courtroom showdown that exposed a year of hidden abuse, let me know where you guys are watching from in the comments. I love seeing how far these stories travel. It started on a Tuesday. Tuesdays were supposed to be easy. That was the day my daughter, Mia, went to her uncle's house for a study group with her cousin, Leo. It was a routine we had established 2 years ago, right after my wife passed away. I thought it was good for Mia to be around family, to have a mother figure in her life, even if that figure was my sister-in-law, Brenda. I was driving my Porsche Cayenne down the interstate, heading toward the suburbs. I know mentioning the car sounds flashy, but I worked hard for it. I'm an architect. I built my firm from the ground up, pulling 80-hour weeks while raising a child alone. That car was my one indulgence. A quiet space where the leather smelled like success and the engine hummed like progress. But that afternoon, the hum of the engine was the only thing keeping me calm. I had a bad feeling. It was a knot in my stomach that tightened with every mile marker I passed. Mia usually texted me by 4 p.m. to say they were done studying. It was 4:30 p.m., and my phone was silent. I pulled into the driveway of the house I owned. It was a beautiful 4-bedroom colonial I had bought as an investment property. When my brother, Kevin, hit a rough patch, I let him and Brenda move in. The market rent was easily $4,000 a month in this school district. I charged them $1,800. I wanted to help. That's what family does, right? You build a safety net for the people you love. I didn't know I was building a trap for my daughter. I killed the engine. The house looked perfect from the outside. Freshly cut grass, paid for by my landscaping crew, and a wreath on the door. But as I walked up the path, the front door swung open. It wasn't Kevin. It was Mia. She didn't run to me like she usually did. She stood in the doorframe, clutching her backpack to her chest like a shield. Her head was down, her long dark hair acting as a curtain hiding her face. "Hey, kiddo," I called out, forcing a cheerful tone. "Ready to go? Did you crush that practice test?" Mia didn't answer. She just trembled. A visible shudder ran through her small frame. I covered the distance between the driveway and the porch in 3 long strides. "Mia, what's wrong?" She looked up. The air left my lungs. Felt like someone had swung a sledgehammer into my chest. The left side of her face, usually pale and full of freckles, was an angry, throbbing red. Her cheek was swollen, the skin tight and shiny. And right there, distinct against her skin, was the outline of a handprint. 4 fingers and a thumb. Who did this? My voice was low. It didn't sound like my voice. It sounded like a growl coming from a different animal. Mia started to cry, silent tears tracking over the swollen skin. "Auntie Brenda," she whispered. I felt a heat rise up the back of my neck that I had never felt before. It wasn't just anger. It was a primal protective instinct that overrode every social protocol I knew. I gently touched Mia's shoulder, guiding her behind me. "Stay here, honey." I didn't knock. I pushed the door open so hard it bounced off the interior wall with a crack. "Brenda!" I yelled. My sister-in-law was in the kitchen, casually wiping down the granite countertops. She looked up, startled but not afraid. That was the first thing I noticed. She didn't look like someone who had just assaulted a child. She looked annoyed that I had interrupted her cleaning. "Eric," she said, tossing the rag into the sink. "You're early." And loud. "Why is my daughter crying on the porch with a handprint on her face?" I demanded, stepping into the kitchen. I wanted to shake her. I kept my hands balled into fists at my sides to stop myself. Brenda sighed, rolling her eyes as if I had asked her why the milk was expired. "Oh, stop being dramatic. She's crying because she got caught being a brat." "A brat?" I stepped closer. "You hit her, Brenda. I saw the mark." "I disciplined her," Brenda corrected, crossing her arms over her chest. She stood her ground, radiating a toxic mix of arrogance and self-righteousness. She needed to learn a lesson about humility. I stared at her, trying to process the insanity of her words. "Humility?" She's 11 years old. What could she possibly have done to warrant a slap in the face? She was bragging. Brenda spat the word out like it was poison. She came prancing in here with her math test, waving it around in front of Leo. She got a 98. And that she knows Leo struggles with math. He got a B. A solid B. Mind you, but your daughter had to rub it in his face. She was happy about her grade. I said, my voice rising. That's not bragging. That's pride. And you hit her for it? She made my son feel stupid, Brenda shouted back, her composure cracking. She looked at him with that superior look she gets from you, Eric. That, I'm better than you because my dad has money and I get good grades look. I won't have it in my house. I told her to apologize to Leo for making him feel inadequate. She refused. So, I taught her some respect. I looked around the kitchen. The stainless steel appliances I paid for. The tile floor I paid for. The roof over her head that I paid for. Your house? I asked quietly. Yes, my house. Where I raise my son to be a good person. Not an academic robot. She sneered. She needs to apologize, Eric. Right now. Bring her in here, have her say sorry to Leo, and we can move past this. If you coddle her, she's going to grow up to be an insufferable snob. At that moment, I saw Brenda clearly for the first time. I didn't see a struggling mother or a family member. I saw a bully, a jealous, vindictive bully who used my generosity to subsidize her lifestyle while physically assaulting my child. I turned around and walked out of the kitchen. Where are you going? Brenda called after me. Don't you walk away while I'm talking to you. She needs to apologize. I walked out to the porch where Mia was still shivering. I crouched down, checking her face again. The swelling was getting worse. The eye was starting to puff up. Did you say anything mean to Leo? I asked Mia gently. Mia shook her head frantically. No, Dad. I just showed him the paper. I said, look, I finally got the bonus question right. Leo didn't even care. He was playing his video game. Auntie Brenda grabbed the paper and tore it. Then she hit me. I believed her. Mia was many things. Stubborn, loud, energetic, but she wasn't mean. I stood up, taking Mia's hand. Brenda had come to the doorway, leaning against the frame with a smirk. She thought she had won. She thought I was retreating to scold Mia in the car. Well? Brenda asked. Is she coming in to say sorry? I looked at Brenda. I looked at the house. Actually, I said, my voice steady and cold as ice. You're evicted. Brenda laughed. It was a harsh, barking sound. Excuse me? You can't evict family, Eric. Stop being petty. You're not going to throw your brother out on the street because of a little slap. Watch me, I said. And it's not just an eviction, Brenda. I'm going to the police. You put your hands on my daughter. You crossed a line you can never uncross. Her smirk faltered for a second, but then the anger returned. You call the cops on me, and you'll destroy this family. Kevin will never forgive you. Do you hear me? You're choosing a spoiled brat over your own brother. I'm choosing my daughter, I said. Every single time. I guided Mia to the Porsche. As I buckled her in, I saw Leo watching from the upstairs window. He looked pale, his face pressed against the glass. He didn't look like a boy who had been defended by his mother. He looked terrified. I got into the driver's seat. My hands were shaking, not from fear, but from the adrenaline of restraint. I wanted to tear that house down brick by brick. But I knew that wasn't the way. I had to be smart. I had to be the architect. I needed a plan. As I backed out of the driveway, Brenda was still standing on the porch, screaming something I couldn't hear. She looked small in the rearview mirror. Dad, Mia asked, her voice small. Am I in trouble? No, baby, I said, reaching over to squeeze her hand. You are not in trouble. You did nothing wrong. You got an A. You should be proud. And I promise you, nobody is ever going to hit you again. I drove toward the highway, but I didn't head home. I headed straight for the urgent care center. I needed documentation. This wasn't just a family spat anymore. This was war. And in war, you need evidence. The drive to the medical center was a blur of red taillights and my own racing thoughts. Every time I glanced over at Mia, my heart broke a little more. She was pressing a chilled water bottle I'd had in the car against her cheek, wincing every time the car went over a bump. "Does your head hurt?" I asked, keeping my eyes scanning the traffic. "A little," she murmured, "and my ear is ringing, like a high-pitched beep that won't stop." My grip on the steering wheel tightened until my knuckles turned white. Tinnitus. That meant the slap had been hard enough to affect the ear canal or cause a concussion. This wasn't a discipline tap. This was a full-force strike. We pulled into the urgent care. The waiting room was filled with coughing kids and exhausted parents. But when the receptionist looked up and saw Mia's face, her expression shifted instantly. "Fill this out," she said, sliding a clipboard over, her eyes lingering on the bruise. "I'll get a nurse to triage her immediately." 10 minutes later, we were in a sterile white room. Dr. Evans, a gray-haired man with a gentle demeanor, walked in. He introduced himself to Mia, making her smile slightly, before turning his attention to the injury. "Okay, Mia," he said softly, shining a light into her eyes. "Follow the light for me. Good. Now, tell me about the noise in your ear." As he examined her, I stood in the corner, feeling useless. I was a man who solved problems. I designed skyscrapers that withstood earthquakes. I managed million-dollar budgets. But I couldn't stop my sister-in-law from hurting my child. "Dad." Dr. Evans turned to me, his voice dropping an octave. "We have signs of a mild concussion. The ringing is tinnitus, likely from the pressure change and impact of the blow near the ear. There's also some bruising developing on the jawline." He paused, looking at his chart. "You listed the cause of injury as struck by ant. Is that correct?" "Yes," I said, my voice hard. "My sister-in-law. I have to document this as a domestic assault involving a minor." Dr. Evans said, his eyes serious. "It's mandatory reporting protocol, but since you are the custodial parent and you are removing her from the situation, I'm noting that you are taking appropriate protective action. I'll need to take photos for the file." "Take them," I said. "Take pictures of everything." As the camera clicked, capturing the violence etched onto my daughter's skin, my phone buzzed. It was Kevin. I stared at the screen. A part of me, the part that remembered playing catch with him in the backyard, the part that remembered holding him when our parents died in that car crash 10 years ago, wanted him to be calling to apologize. I wanted him to say he was leaving Brenda. I wanted him to be my brother. I didn't answer. I let it go to voicemail. Then the text messages started coming in. "Kevin, Eric, please pick up. Brenda is freaking out. Kevin. She says you threatened to evict us? Come on, man. Don't be like that. Kevin, it was just a slap. We were disciplined like that as kids, remember? Mom used to pop us all the time." I stared at that last message in disbelief. Our mother never hit us in the face. Never. She popped our hands if we touched the stove. She never left a bruise that caused a concussion. He was rewriting history to defend his abuser wife. Then came a message from Brenda. "Brenda, you are overreacting. She is a disrespectful child who cares more about grades than family. I disciplined her. Don't make this a big thing, Eric. We are family. Bring her back so she can apologize to Noah, and we can eat dinner." Apologize to Noah? She couldn't even get her own son's name right in her rage. She meant Leo. Or maybe she was just so focused on her narrative that details didn't matter. I typed a reply to Kevin. I didn't want to talk to him, but I needed to be clear. She has a concussion, Kevin. Dr. Evans is photographing the bruise right now. Brenda hit her hard enough to cause brain trauma. This isn't discipline. It's assault. 3 dots appeared, then stopped, then appeared again. Kevin. She's under a lot of pressure, Eric. Leo isn't doing well in school. She just snapped. She didn't mean to hurt her that bad. Please don't involve the police. It will ruin her reputation in the PDA. It will ruin my job if I have drama at home. I almost threw the phone across the room. His wife gives my daughter a concussion, and he's worried about her reputation in the Parent-Teacher Association? He's worried about his job? I realized then that my brother wasn't just a victim of Brenda's personality. He was an enabler. He was so terrified of rocking the boat that he would let his wife drill holes in the hull while we all drowned. Mr. Eric? Dr. Evans handed me a packet of papers. Here are the discharge instructions. Monitor her for nausea or dizziness. No screens for 24 hours. And here is the number for a family law attorney I trust, just in case. I have a lawyer, I said, taking the papers. But thank you, doctor, for everything. I walked Mia out to the car. She was quiet, clutching a lollipop the nurse had given her. Dad? She asked as we buckled in. Is Uncle Kevin mad at me? No, I said firmly. And if he is, he's wrong. Listen to me, Mia. You are the victim here. You did nothing wrong by being smart. Never apologize for being smart. Never apologize for succeeding. I started the car. The engine roared to life. A deep, aggressive sound that matched my mood. Where are we going? Mia asked. Home first, I said, to get you settled with some ice cream and audiobooks. And then what? Then I have to go to work. I lied. I wasn't going to work. I was going to war. I pulled out my phone and dialed a number I had on speed dial. Sarah, I said when the voice answered. Sarah wasn't just my lawyer. She was my late wife's best friend. She was the godmother to Mia. She was a shark in a pencil skirt. Eric? Everything okay? She sensed the tension immediately. No. Brenda hit Mia. Concussion. Documented. There was a silence on the other end. Cold, dangerous silence. Where is she? Sarah asked. Home. Safe. Good. What do you want to do? I want them out, I said. I want them out of the house. I want a restraining order. And I want to make sure she never comes within 500 feet of Mia again. Consider it done, Sarah said. I'll draft the eviction notice for breach of lease, engaging in illegal activity on the premises. Assault is definitely a breach. I'll meet you at the police station in an hour. Thanks, Sarah. Eric, she added, her voice softening. I'm going to destroy her for this. Get in line, I said. I hung up. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the road. The world looked the same as it had this morning, but everything had changed. My brother was gone, replaced by a stranger who defended violence. My sister-in-law was an enemy combatant, and I was no longer just an architect. I was a father on a mission of demolition. The police station smelled like stale coffee and floor wax. It was a smell I wasn't used to. I spent my days in glass-walled offices and on construction sites that smelled of sawdust and fresh concrete. This place felt heavy, burdened by the weight of the stories that walked through its doors. Sarah met me in the lobby. She looked immaculate in her charcoal suit, her briefcase looking more like a weapon than an accessory. She hugged me briefly, a tight, fierce squeeze, before switching into lawyer mode. I have the paperwork, she said. The eviction notice is standard 3-day notice to quit for criminal activity. In this state, assault on the premises allows for expedited eviction. We serve it tonight. And the restraining order? We file the police report now. That gives us the grounds for the temporary protective order. The judge will sign it in the morning. We walked up to the desk. Officer Miller took my statement. He was an older guy, thick around the middle, with eyes that had seen too much domestic nonsense. He listened as I recounted the events, looked at the photos Dr. Evans had sent to my phone, and nodded grimly. Assault on a minor, Miller grunted, typing into his ancient computer. Class A misdemeanor, potentially a felony depending on the DA, given the concussion. We'll pay Ms. Brenda a visit. I need to serve her eviction papers, I said. I'd like an escort. Miller looked at me, then at Sarah. Civil matter, usually, but since there's an assault charge pending. Yeah, I'll follow you over. Keep the peace. The drive back to my rental property, Kevin's home, felt like a funeral procession. My Porsche led the way. Officer Miller's cruiser followed. I saw neighbors peering out of their windows as the police lights flashed silently, cutting through the suburban twilight. I pulled into the driveway. Kevin's sedan was there. The lights were on in the living room. It looked so cozy, so normal. It made me sick. I stepped out of the car, clutching the thick envelope Sarah had prepared. Officer Miller stood by his cruiser, hand resting casually near his belt. His presence a silent warning. I walked up the path. My heart was hammering against my ribs, but my face was stone. I rang the bell. Kevin opened the door. He looked exhausted, a beer in his hand. When he saw me, relief washed over his face, followed instantly by panic when he saw the cop car behind me. "Eric," he stammered. "Bro, what are you doing? Why is there a cop?" "I told you, Kevin," I said, my voice flat. "I protect my daughter." Brenda appeared behind him. Her eyes went wide when she saw Officer Miller. "You called the police? Seriously? On family? You committed a crime, Brenda," I said loudly enough for the neighbors to hear. "You assaulted a child. That's not family business. That's criminal business." "It was a slap," she shrieked, pushing past Kevin. "She's fine. You are trying to ruin us over nothing. She has a concussion," I shot back. "And you are done." I slapped the envelope against Kevin's chest. He fumbled to catch it. "What is this?" he asked, his hands shaking. "Eviction notice," I said. 3 days. You have 72 hours to vacate the premises. Breach of lease due to criminal conduct. If you aren't out by Friday at noon, the sheriff comes to remove your belongings. Kevin looked at the paper, then at me. "Eric, where are we supposed to go? We can't afford a place in this district. Not with my salary." "You should have thought about that before your wife gave my daughter brain damage," I said. "You were paying $1,800 for a $4,000 house. That charity is over. The scholarship is revoked." Brenda snatched the papers from Kevin's hand and threw them on the ground. "This is illegal. You can't do this. We have rights. Squatters' rights. Tenants' rights." "Actually," Sarah stepped out from behind the cruiser, her voice cutting through the night air like a knife. "Under State Code 44-7, commission of a violent crime on the property nullifies standard lease protections. You have 3 days, and by tomorrow morning you will also be served with a restraining order. If you come within 500 feet of Mia or Eric, you go to jail." Brenda turned purple. She looked at the cop, then at Sarah, then at me. She realized she was outgunned. "You monster," she hissed at me. "You rich, arrogant monster. You think your money lets you control everything." "My money bought this house," I said. "And my money is going to protect my child from you. Start packing." I turned to walk away. "I'll sue you," Brenda screamed after me. "I'll take half your business. I know things, Eric. I know about the inheritance." I paused. "Inheritance? Our parents died with debt. The only money I had was what I made." She was delusional. I looked back at Kevin. He was staring at the eviction notice on the grass. His shoulders slumped. He looked broken. "Kevin," I said. He looked up. "You have a choice," I said. "You can stay with her, the woman who hits kids, or you can be my brother. But you can't be both tonight." Kevin looked at Brenda, who was panting with rage. He looked at me. Then he looked down at his shoes. "She's my wife, Eric," he whispered. "Then you're evicted too," I said. I got back in my car. Officer Miller gave me a nod and stayed behind to ensure they didn't chase me. As I drove away, I didn't feel the satisfaction I thought I would. I felt a deep, hollow ache. I had just severed the last limb of my family tree. But then I thought of Mia, sitting at home with an ice pack, afraid of the ringing in her ears. And the ache was replaced by resolve. They wanted a fight? They had no idea. I wasn't just an architect. I was a demolition expert. And I was just getting started. The next morning, the silence was shattered not by a phone call, but by a notification. I was in my kitchen making pancakes for Mia. She was sitting at the island, wearing her oversized headphones to dampen the sound, looking pale but spirited. I was trying to keep things normal. Then my phone lit up. It was a screenshot sent by a friend of mine whose wife was in the local Suburban Moms Facebook group. "Urgent. Need advice. The post read, "How do you deal with a toxic family member who uses his wealth to abuse you? My brother-in-law, a wealthy architect in town, you probably know his firm, just evicted me, my husband, and my innocent son because we had a disagreement about parenting styles. He's throwing us on the street in 3 days. He's trying to separate my husband from me. This is financial abuse. Please share. #ToxicFamily, #boycott. It had 400 likes and 200 comments in 3 hours. That's horrible. What's the firm name? We should review bomb him. Rich people think they can buy people. Stay strong, Mama Bear." My blood boiled. She was playing the victim perfectly. She omitted the part about the concussion. She omitted the part about the cheap rent. She was weaponizing the community against me. "Dad," Mia asked, pulling one headphone ear cup back. "Why do you look like you ate a lemon?" "Nothing, sweetie," I said, flipping a pancake. "Just work stuff." But it wasn't just Facebook. 2 hours later, after I dropped Mia off at my office, I didn't feel safe sending her to school yet. My secretary, Linda, walked in. She looked pale. "Eric," she said, "Mrs. Gable is on line 1. The principal at Mia's school." I picked up the phone. "Mrs. Gable? Everything okay?" "Mr. Vance." Mrs. Gable's voice was stiff. "I need you to come to the school immediately. We have received a serious complaint regarding Mia's academic integrity and allegations regarding your conduct as well." "I'll be there in 20 minutes, I said. I drove to the school, my mind racing. Academic integrity? Mia was a straight-A student because she studied, not because she cheated. When I walked into the principal's office, the atmosphere was frigid. Mrs. Gable sat behind her desk, hands clasped over a file. "Mr. Vance," she began. "This morning, we received a call from your sister-in-law, Brenda Vance. She claims that Mia confided in her cousin, Leo, that she had the answer key to the math test. Brenda alleges that you purchased it from a teacher." I stared at her. "You're joking. You know Mia. You know me." "I do," Mrs. Gable said. "However, the accusation gets worse. She claims you have been using performance-enhancing drugs, specifically Adderall not prescribed to her, to keep Mia focused. She demanded we search Mia's locker and drug test her." "This is retaliation," I said, slamming my hand on the armrest of the chair. "I evicted Brenda last night because she physically assaulted Mia. Mia has a concussion. I have the medical report right here." I pulled the papers from my briefcase and slid them across the desk. Mrs. Gable picked them up, her eyes widening as she read Dr. Evans' notes. "She hit her because Mia got in a," I continued. "And now she's trying to destroy Mia's reputation because I stood up to her." Mrs. Gable put the papers down. Her stiff demeanor softened, replaced by a look of grave concern. She opened her drawer and pulled out another document. "I'm glad you showed me this, Eric, because it puts this in context." She slid a piece of paper toward me. It was a withdrawal form, dated yesterday afternoon. "What is this?" I asked. "It's a request to transfer Mia's records to a different district," Mrs. Gable said. "It arrived by fax yesterday at 4:45 p.m. It has your signature on it." I looked at the signature. It was a clumsy forgery. It looked like my name, but the loop on the V was wrong. "I didn't sign this," I said, my voice shaking with rage. "I suspected as much," Mrs. Gable said. "The fax came from a number associated with Kevin Vance. I didn't process it because I know you would never pull Mia out without a meeting. But Eric, this goes beyond a smear campaign. She tried to remove your daughter from school." My stomach turned over. This wasn't just about reputation. This was about control. Brenda wanted to erase Mia's success. If Mia wasn't in the school, she wasn't a threat to Leo's ego. "Can I have a copy of this?" I asked. "For the police." "Absolutely," Mrs. Gable said. "And Eric, we won't launch an investigation into Mia. Her grades stand. But I suggest you get that restraining order finalized today." "I'm working on it," I said. I walked out of the school, the forged document burning a hole in my pocket. I checked the Facebook post again. It had spread to the local community page. People were calling for a boycott of my architecture firm. I sat in my car and took a deep breath. She wanted a public fight? Fine. I called Sarah. She forged my signature to try and pull Mia out of school. I told her. Add it to the pile, Sarah said. That's fraud. Wire fraud since she faxed it. We're gonna bury her, Eric. But listen, Kevin is trying to reach you. He called my office. I don't want to talk to him. He says it's urgent. He says he has information. I hesitated. Was it a trap? Or was the weak link finally snapping? Tell him to meet me at my office, I said. Alone. If Brenda is with him, I call the cops. I drove back to my firm. The sky was gray, promising rain. A storm was coming, both literally and metaphorically. I walked past the reception, ignoring the worried looks of my staff who had probably seen the Facebook drama. I sat in my office, staring at the skyline I had helped build. I had designed structures to withstand hurricane-force winds. But could I design a defense against my own family? The door opened. Kevin walked in. He looked 10 years older than he had yesterday. His eyes were bloodshot, his clothes rumpled. He didn't look like my brother. He looked like a ghost. Eric, he croaked. You have 5 minutes, I said, not offering him a seat. Before I call Officer Miller to report the fraud your wife committed with your fax machine. Kevin flinched. I didn't know about the fax. I swear. She told me she was sending a resume. You need to leave her, Kevin, I said. She is destroying everything. She's destroying you. I can't, he whispered. She says she'll take Leo. She says she'll tell everyone I abused her. She's crazy, Eric. I'm scared of her. It was the first time he had admitted it. The fear. I can help you, I said, leaning forward. But you have to stand up. You have to tell the truth. Kevin looked at me, tears welling in his eyes. You don't understand. It's not just the hitting. It's everything. The money. The house. What about the house? She's suing you, Kevin said, his voice trembling. She found a lawyer who works on contingency. She's going to claim that the house was bought with Mom and Dad's inheritance money that you stole from me. She's going to claim constructive trust. That's a lie, I said. Mom and Dad died in debt. I paid off their funeral costs. I have the receipts. I know, Kevin sobbed. I know, but she's going to lie. And she wants me to back her up. And will you? I asked. The silence that followed was deafening. It stretched between us, heavy with years of unspoken resentment and cowardice. I don't know, Kevin whispered. Get out, I said. Eric, please. Get out. He turned and left. I watched him go, feeling a mixture of pity and disgust. He was being held hostage, yes, but he was also holding the gun. I picked up the phone to call Sarah again. The gloves were off. If Brenda wanted to sue for the house, I was going to make sure she lost more than just a roof over her head. I was going to make sure she lost her freedom. The days leading up to the hearing were a blur of legal maneuvers and strategic silence. We didn't respond to the Facebook posts. Sarah advised against it. Never wrestle with a pig, she said. You both get dirty, and the pig likes it. Instead, we prepared. I hired a forensic accountant to trace every dime I had ever spent on Kevin and Brenda. The results were staggering. Over 5 years, between the subsidized rent, the loans I never asked back, the car payments I covered when Kevin was between jobs, and the tuition for Leo's extracurriculars, I had given them nearly $150,000. This destroys her narrative of financial abuse, Sarah said, flipping through the spreadsheet in my office. She claims you starved them. You were practically feeding them with a silver spoon. It won't matter if the judge believes her lie about the inheritance, I said, rubbing my temples. The stress was getting to me. I wasn't sleeping. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that handprint on Mia's face. We have the probate records, Eric. Your parents died with $40,000 in credit card debt. You paid it. There was no inheritance. Her case is built on smoke. Smoke can still suffocate you, I muttered. The eviction deadline passed on Friday. They didn't leave. The sheriff had to be called. I stayed away, letting Sarah handle it. I didn't want Mia to see her cousin being dragged out of his home. I heard later that Brenda screamed the entire time, live streaming it on Facebook, crying about how her billionaire brother-in-law was making a child homeless. She didn't mention that I had offered to pay for a hotel for 2 weeks for Kevin and Leo. She rejected it. She wanted the spectacle. She wanted the martyrdom. On Monday, the day before the restraining order hearing, I received a package. No return address. I opened it carefully. Inside was a small, black USB drive. There was a note attached. Handwriting I recognized instantly. Messy, jagged scrawl. Kevin's. I can't do it anymore. I'm sorry. That was it. I plugged the drive into my laptop. I hesitated before clicking the file. Was this a virus? A trap? I clicked play. The video was grainy. It was from a Nest Cam, one I had installed in the living room years ago for security, which Brenda had insisted was broken and unplugged. Apparently, it wasn't. The timestamp was 3 weeks ago. On screen, Leo was sitting at the kitchen table. He was crying. Brenda was standing over him. "Read it again," she screamed. "I can't," Leo sobbed. "I'm tired, Mom. It's midnight. I don't care what time it is." Brenda slammed her hand on the table. "Mia is going to get an A. Do you want that little witch to be better than you? Do you want to be the loser of the family?" "I'm not a loser," Leo whimpered. "Then stop acting like one." She grabbed his sketchbook. He loved to draw dinosaurs and ripped the page out. "No more drawing. No more games. You do math until you get it right." She shoved his head down toward the book. Physically shoved it. I fast-forwarded. Another clip. 2 days before the incident with Mia. Brenda was on the phone. "I don't care, Kevin. You tell Eric we need a new car. Tell him the sedan is breaking down. Lie if you have to. He has so much money he won't even notice. We deserve it. We deserve his life." I felt sick. It wasn't just about grades. It was pure, unadulterated envy. She hated me. She hated Mia. And she was breaking her own son to try and compete with us. I called Sarah. "You need to come over. Now." "What is it?" "The smoking gun," I said. "And the nuclear bomb." We watched the footage together in silence. When it finished, Sarah, who had been a divorce lawyer for 20 years and had seen everything, looked pale. "This changes everything," she said. "This isn't just assault on Mia. This is systematic child abuse of Leo. And it proves the financial extortion." "Can we use it?" I asked. "Is it admissible?" "It's your house," Sarah said, a shark-like grin returning to her face. "You installed the system. You own the data. She has no expectation of privacy in a home she doesn't own, especially when committing a crime." "Kevin sent it," I said. "He turned on her. He finally grew a spine," Sarah noted. "Or he realized that if he didn't, he was going to lose his son." The next morning, the court was packed. Brenda had rallied her Facebook troops. A dozen women were wearing T-shirts that said, "Justice for Brenda." They glared at me as I walked in. I held my head high, clutching my briefcase. Mia was at home with a private security guard I had hired. I wasn't taking chances. Brenda sat at the defendant's table. She looked modest today, no jewelry, hair pulled back, wearing a cheap cardigan. She was playing the role of the downtrodden housewife perfectly. Kevin sat next to her, staring at the table. He didn't look up when I entered. "All rise," the bailiff announced. Judge Sterling walked in. She was a woman in her 60s, sharp eyes behind reading glasses. She didn't look like someone who suffered fools. "We are here for the matter of Vance versus Vance," Judge Sterling said. "Petition for permanent restraining order and related matters." Brenda's lawyer, a guy named Mr. Thorne who looked like he chased ambulances for a living, stood up. "Your Honor," he began, his voice dripping with fake sincerity. "This is a tragic case of a wealthy, powerful man using his resources to bully a struggling mother. My client admits to a minor discipline incident, a tap on the cheek, which has been blown out of proportion to evict her and steal her inheritance." "A tap," Judge Sterling looked at the photos of Mia's face on her desk. Counselor, this child looks like she went around with a boxer. There is a concussion diagnosis. Exaggerated by paid doctors. Thorne waved his hand dismissively. The real issue here is the provocation. The child, Mia, was bullying her cousin. My client acted in defense of her son's emotional well-being. I clenched my jaw. The audacity was breathtaking. And, Thorne continued, we have a counter-motion. We are claiming constructive trust on the property. We have witness testimony that the parents intended the house for Kevin. Witness testimony? Judge Sterling raised an eyebrow. From whom? From Kevin Vance, Thorne said, gesturing to my brother. My heart stopped. Had Kevin played me? Did he send the USB just to distract me? Was he going to lie under oath? I looked at Sarah. She looked tense. Mr. Vance, Judge Sterling said to Kevin, please take the stand. Kevin stood up. He walked slowly to the witness box. He looked like a man walking to the gallows. He swore to tell the truth. Mr. Vance, Thorne asked, smiling, did your parents tell you that the money Eric used to buy the house was actually yours? The room went silent. Brenda was staring at Kevin, her eyes wide, willing him to lie. She gave a subtle nod. Kevin looked at Brenda. Then he looked at me. Then he looked at the judge. No, Kevin said. The air left the room. Excuse me? Thorne blinked. I think you misunderstood the question. No, Kevin said, his voice louder this time. My parents died in debt. Eric paid for everything. He bought the house with his own money. He let us live there for almost nothing because he loved us. Brenda stood up. Kevin, what are you doing? Sit down, Mrs. Vance. The judge slammed her gavel. And regarding the incident with Mia, Kevin continued, tears streaming down his face. Brenda didn't tap her. She slapped her. Hard. Because she was jealous. She's always been jealous. Kevin, Brenda screamed. Shut up. You useless coward. I am a coward. Kevin looked at her, sobbing. I was a coward for 10 years. But not today. I'm not letting you hurt Leo anymore. He looked at the judge. Your Honor, my brother has a video. You need to see it. The courtroom erupted. Brenda was on her feet. Her face a mask of twisted fury that shattered her modest mother persona instantly. He's lying, she shrieked, pointing a shaking finger at Kevin. He's brainwashed. His brother paid him off. That video is fake. Order. Judge Sterling's gavel banged like a gunshot. Mrs. Vance, sit down or I will hold you in contempt. Mr. Thorne, control your client. Thorne looked like he wanted to crawl under the table. He grabbed Brenda's arm and yanked her down, whispering furiously into her ear. Sarah stood up, cool as a cucumber. Your Honor, based on the witness's testimony, we would like to submit Exhibit C into evidence. The video footage from the home security system. Objection. Thorne stammered. Privacy violation. That footage was obtained illegally. The house belongs to my client, Sarah countered smoothly. The security system is his property. And since the witness, the husband of the defendant, provided the footage voluntarily, there is no expectation of privacy regarding criminal acts. Judge Sterling peered over her glasses. I'll allow it. Play the video. The bailiff connected my laptop to the courtroom monitors. The lights dimmed. First came the audio. Brenda's voice, shrill and cruel, filled the silence of the courtroom. You are stupid, just like your father. Then the image flickered to life. The scene where she ripped Leo's sketchbook. The scene where she shoved his head. The scene where she admitted to the car scam. And then a clip I hadn't seen yet. One Kevin must have found later. It was the day of the slap. Mia was standing in the doorway holding her test paper, smiling. Auntie Brenda, look, I got the bonus right. Brenda didn't even look at the paper. She walked up to Mia and swung her arm. The sound of the slap echoed through the courtroom speakers. A sickening, meaty thwack. Mia fell back against the doorframe. You little bitch, Brenda hissed on the video. You think you're better than my son? You are nothing. The video ended. The courtroom was dead silent. The women wearing the Justice for Brenda shirts were looking at the floor, shame burning their faces. One of them actually took off the shirt and stuffed it in her purse. Judge Sterling took off her glasses. She looked at Brenda with an expression of pure disgust. "Mrs. Vance," the judge said, her voice dangerously quiet, "in my 20 years on the bench, I have rarely seen such a display of unprovoked malice." Brenda was trembling. She wasn't screaming anymore. She was hyperventilating. The reality of the situation was crashing down on her. "The claim for the house is dismissed with prejudice," Judge Sterling ruled. "The restraining order is granted. 5 years. No contact with Eric Vance or Mia Vance. 500 yards. She turned to the bailiff. "Is there an officer present?" Officer Miller, who had been standing in the back, stepped forward. "Based on the video evidence of abuse toward the minor Leo Vance," Judge Sterling said, "I am ordering an immediate referral to Child Protective Services, and I suggest the district attorney review this footage for additional assault charges." "No!" Brenda wailed. "You can't take my son. Leo needs me. Leo needs protection from you," the judge said. "Mr. Kevin Vance?" Kevin stood up again. He looked lighter, as if a physical weight had been lifted off his shoulders. "Yes, Your Honor? I am granting you temporary sole custody of Leo, pending the CPS investigation. Do you have a safe place to stay?" Kevin looked at me. I nodded. "Yes, Your Honor," Kevin said. "I'm staying with my brother." "Good." Judge Sterling banged the gavel. Court adjourned. Pandemonium broke out. Officer Miller moved in to handcuff Brenda. Not for the assault yet, but for the outstanding warrant regarding the school fraud Mrs. Gable had filed that morning. "Kevin!" Brenda screamed as she was led away. Fix this right now. I'm your wife." Kevin didn't look at her. He walked over to me. We stood there for a moment, two brothers separated by a decade of silence and lies, finally standing on the same side of the line. "I'm sorry," Kevin said, his voice cracking. "I'm so sorry, Eric. For everything. For the money. For Mia." I put my hand on his shoulder. Felt solid. "It's over, Kev. Let's go get your son." We walked out of the courtroom together. The Justice for Brenda crowd parted like the Red Sea to let us pass. They didn't say a word. Outside, the sun was shining. It was the first time in a week that the sky looked blue. We drove to the school to pick up Leo. When he saw Kevin's car and my Porsche behind it, he looked confused. When Kevin got out and told him, "Mom isn't coming back for a while, you're coming with us?" the look on the kid's face wasn't sadness. It was relief. Pure, unadulterated relief. That night, my house was full. Mia was on the couch, ice pack finally gone, showing Leo how to play a new video game. Kevin was in the kitchen actually helping me cook, something he hadn't done in years. I stepped out onto the patio with a glass of wine. I looked at the stars. I had lost a sister-in-law. I had lost thousands of dollars. My reputation had taken a hit in the town gossip mill. But I looked through the glass door. Mia was laughing. Leo was smiling. Kevin was safe. I had won the war. Storm. The silence in my house that first night was heavy. But it wasn't the oppressive silence of a tomb. It was the silence of a battlefield after the cannons have finally stopped firing. Kevin and Leo were set up in the guest wing. I had ordered pizza, 5 different kinds, because I didn't know what Leo liked anymore, and that fact gnawed at me. I sat in my study, a glass of scotch in hand, staring at the phone. Sarah, my lawyer, had called an hour ago with the update. Brenda was being held without bail until her arraignment on the fraud charges. The assault charges were pending, but with the video evidence and the flight risk she posed. She had apparently tried to withdraw $10,000 from a joint account right before the hearing. The judge wasn't taking chances. I heard a knock on the door frame. It was Kevin. He looked like a man who had been shipwrecked. He was wearing one of my old college hoodies, which was too big for him now. The stress of the last few years had whittled him down to bone and nerves. "Is he asleep?" I asked. "Yeah," Kevin said, stepping into the room. He asked if he had to set an alarm for 5 a.m. to study. When I told him no, that he could sleep until noon if he wanted. He started crying. I took a sip of scotch, the burn grounding me. She ran a prison camp, Kevin. Not a home. Kevin sank into the leather armchair opposite me. I know. I see it now. But when you're in it, it's like the temperature rises 1 degree a day. You don't realize you're boiling until your skin starts peeling off. We need to go to the rental house tomorrow, I said, shifting to business mode. It was my defense mechanism. We need to get Leo's clothes, his toys, and we need to assess the damage. Kevin flinched. I don't know if I can walk back in there. You have to, I said firmly. You have to close the door on that life, physically and metaphorically. And we need to find the financial records. If she was forging my signature on school documents, God knows what she was doing with your bank accounts. The next morning, under the bright, unforgiving sun, we drove back to the house I owned. The house that had been the stage for this tragedy. The police seal was on the door, but since I was the owner and Kevin was the tenant, we had clearance to enter to retrieve personal items. The smell hit us first. It was a mix of lavender air freshener and something rotting. We walked into the living room. It was chaos. Not the chaos of the eviction, but the chaos of a mind unraveling. There were piles of unpaid bills stuffed into vases. There were boxes of expensive clothes, tags still on them, hidden behind the sofa. I thought you said money was tight, I said, picking up a designer handbag that still had the $2,500 price tag attached. Kevin's face went white. She told me we were broke. She told me your rent was bleeding us dry. I gave her my whole paycheck every 2 weeks. She gave me an allowance for gas and lunch. We went into the office, or what Brenda called her command center. I started pulling open drawers. It wasn't just messy. It was criminal. I found credit cards, 10 of them, all in Kevin's name. Did you open an Amex Platinum? I asked, holding up the black card. No, Kevin whispered. I have a debit card. That's it. I pulled up the statement lying next to it. The balance was $24,000. And the charges? Spa days, jewelry, consulting fees for life coaches, and curiously, multiple payments to a reputation management firm online. She wasn't just spending money, I realized, handing the stack to Kevin. She was building a facade. She was spending thousands to look like the perfect mother online while starving you guys emotionally and financially in real life. Kevin sat down on the floor, surrounded by the evidence of his wife's betrayal. It wasn't just the abuse of Leo. It was the complete and total exploitation of his existence. She had hollowed him out to fill her own void. I'm bankrupt, Kevin said, his voice flat. Eric, look at this. The total debt. It's over $100,000. I'm ruined. I crouched down next to him. This was the moment, the pivot point. You're not ruined, I said. You're free. Bankruptcy is just paperwork. Debt is just numbers. We have lawyers for that. Sarah is already working on a fraud case to pin this debt where it belongs, on her. But you have a job. You have a son who loves you. And you have a brother who is done enabling her, but just getting started backing you up. We spent the rest of the day packing. We didn't take everything. We took Leo's clothes, his dinosaur figures, his art supplies. We took Kevin's tools. Everything else, the furniture Brenda picked out, the decorations, the status symbols, we left. Leave it, I told the junk removal guys I called. Clear the house. Donate what you can. Trash the rest. When we got back to my place, something happened that broke me more than the slap itself. I was in the kitchen, opening a cabinet to get a glass. Leo walked in. I turned around quickly, raising my hand to wave at him. Leo flinched. He threw his hands up to cover his face and took a step back, his body going rigid, bracing for a blow. I froze. My hand hovered in the air. The silence in the kitchen was deafening. Mia, who was sitting at the counter eating an apple, stopped chewing. She looked at her cousin, then at me. I slowly lowered my hand. I dropped to one knee, making myself smaller than him. Leo, I said softly, look at me. He peeked through his fingers, his eyes wide with panic. I am never going to hit you, I said. Do you hear me? No one in this house is ever going to hit you. My hands are for building things. They are for high fives. They are for cooking. They are not for hurting. Leo lowered his hands slowly. He looked at Mia. He's telling the truth, Mia said, her voice matter of fact. Dad gets mad sometimes, mostly at traffic or bad contractors. But he doesn't hit. We're safe here. Leo let out a breath he seemed to have been holding for years. He nodded, a jerky, small motion. Okay, he whispered. Okay, I repeated. Now I was reaching for a glass. Do you want some juice? That night, after the boys went to sleep, Kevin found me on the patio. I saw that, he said. In the kitchen. It takes time, Kev, I said. Reflexes are hard to unlearn. I have to apologize to Mia, he said. I haven't done it yet. I've been too ashamed. Don't tell me. I pointed to the sliding glass door. Tell her. She's still up reading. I watched from the shadows as my brother walked into the living room. He sat down on the edge of the sofa where Mia was curled up with a book. I couldn't hear every word, but I saw the body language. I saw Kevin weeping. I saw him hang his head. And then I saw my daughter, the girl with the concussion, the girl who had been slapped and humiliated, put her book down. She reached out and hugged him. She patted his back, comforting the adult who had failed to protect her. It was a display of grace that I wasn't sure I possessed. In that moment, I realized Mia was stronger than all of us. She wasn't just smart. She was kind. And Brenda's greatest sin wasn't the slap. It was trying to extinguish that light because she didn't have any of her own. The storm had passed, but the wreckage was vast. We were standing in the debris, but for the first time in a long time, the ground under our feet felt solid. 6 months later, the seasons had changed. The gray skies of that tumultuous spring had given way to the golden, lazy heat of late summer. My house, once a quiet sanctuary of a bachelor dad, was now a loud, chaotic, wonderful mess. There were cleats by the door. There were 2 backpacks on the counter. There was a constant battle over who controlled the TV remote. I stood on the deck, flipping burgers on the grill. The smell of charcoal and searing meat filled the air, the universal scent of an American weekend. Dad, watch this. I looked toward the pool. Mia was standing on the diving board. She had healed completely. The physical bruise had faded within 2 weeks, but the emotional healing had taken longer. There were nightmares at first, but today she looked fearless. She executed a perfect cannonball, sending a splash of water over the side that soaked the lounge chair where Kevin was sitting. Hey! Kevin yelled, laughing, shielding his iPad. I'm trying to work here. Kevin looked different. The hollow cheeks were filled out. The hunch in his shoulders was gone. He was working for my firm now, not as an architect, but as a project manager. It turned out he was incredibly organized when he wasn't being micromanaged and terrorized. He handled the contractors with a calm demeanor that I lacked. He was earning his own salary, a real one, not an allowance. He was paying off the debts Brenda had saddled him with, 1 check at a time. We had set up a payment plan. It would take 5 years, but he insisted on doing it. He wanted to own his life again. Uncle Kevin, you have to grade it, Mia yelled, surfacing. Solid 8.5, Kevin declared. Too much splash for a 9. Tough crowd, Leo shouted from the deep end. Leo. He was the biggest transformation. The pale, terrified boy who flinched at a wave was gone. He had gained weight. He was tan. And he was loud. He and Mia bickered like siblings, but they were a team. And he was drawing again. I had converted the sunroom into a studio for them. It was covered in sketches of dinosaurs, skyscrapers, and weird hybrids of both. Burgers are up, I called out. As we gathered around the patio table, the mood was light, but there was a significant absence that we all felt but rarely spoke of. Brenda. The legal hammer had come down hard. Faced with the mountain of evidence, the video of child abuse, the forged school documents, the credit card fraud, her lawyer had advised her to take a plea deal. She pleaded no contest to child endangerment and identity theft. She was serving 18 months in a minimum security facility, followed by 5 years of probation. The restraining order was permanent. She had lost custody of Leo completely, The judge had been scathing in her final remarks, calling Brenda's actions a systematic dismantling of a child's spirit. She had tried to write letters. At first, they were angry, blaming me for stealing her life. Then they became pleading, begging Kevin to visit. Kevin never went. He read the first letter, burned it in the fireplace, and handed the rest to Sarah to file away. "I can't save her," he had told me that night. "I spent 10 years trying to save her from herself, and she drowned me. I have to save Leo." We sat down to eat. The conversation flowed easily, school starting next week, the new project I was bidding on downtown, the fact that Leo needed braces. Normal, boring, beautiful family stuff. "Dad," Mia said, wiping ketchup off her chin, "are you going to the parent-teacher night next week?" "Of course," I said. "Why?" "Because," she grinned, "I'm running for class president, and Leo is running for treasurer." I looked at Leo. "Treasurer, huh? You good with money?" Leo smiled, a real toothy smile that reached his eyes. "Better than Mom was." The table went quiet for a split second. It was the first time he had made a joke about it. Kevin chuckled. Then Mia giggled. Then we were all laughing. It wasn't a cruel laugh. It was the laughter of survival. It was the sound of a monster being turned into a memory that couldn't hurt us anymore. "Yeah," Kevin said, ruffling Leo's hair. "You're definitely going to be better with money than she was. We'll make sure of it." As the sun began to set, painting the sky in hues of purple and orange, I sat back and looked at them. I used to think that being an architect was about building structures that defied gravity. I thought success was measured in square footage and the badge on the hood of my car. I thought I could solve problems by throwing money at them, like giving cheap rent to family and looking the other way. I was wrong. The most important structure I ever built wasn't a skyscraper. It was this fragile, cobbled-together family. We were scarred. We were messy. We had walked through fire. But we were standing. I looked at Kevin, who was helping Mia clear the table. He caught my eye and nodded. A silent communication between brothers. "Thank you." "No," I thought. "Thank you." Because in saving them, I had saved myself. I wasn't just the lonely widower in the big house anymore. I was a brother. I was an uncle. I was a father who had kept his promise. I stood up and walked to the edge of the deck. I pulled my phone out. I had a notification from YouTube, a comment on a video I had posted about architectural design, but someone had recognized me from the news stories about the court case. "Is that the dad who evicted the aunt? Hope you guys are okay." I typed a reply. "We're more than okay. We're home." I put the phone away. I didn't need the validation of strangers anymore. I had everything I needed right here. "Hey, Eric," Kevin called out. "Mia says she can beat you at Mario Kart. Loser does dishes." I grinned, unbuttoning my cuffs. "Oh, she is going down." I walked back into the house, into the noise, into the life I had finally designed correctly. This story isn't just about a slap or an eviction. It's a harsh lesson about the corrosive nature of envy and the danger of enabling. First, we saw how Brenda's envy didn't just poison her own life. It became a weapon she used against an innocent child. She couldn't handle someone else's light shining, so she tried to extinguish it. In life, we often see people who mask their jealousy as concern or fairness. But true family lifts you up. They don't tear you down to make themselves feel taller. Second, and perhaps more importantly, is the lesson of silence. Kevin's silence was just as damaging as Brenda's violence. By trying to keep the peace, he allowed a war to rage against his own son. The takeaway here is clear. Neutrality in the face of abuse is not neutrality. It is complicity. Whether it's a spouse, a sibling, or a friend, we have a moral obligation to draw boundaries. You cannot buy peace with the currency of your children's safety. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever had to make a tough choice to cut off toxic family to save your sanity, I want to hear from you. Comment good below if you agree that protecting a child is worth any price, or share the one lesson you're taking away from Eric and Kevin's journey. Let's keep the conversation going.